So, how do you stay faithful to an approach and a philosophy and kind of overriding principles? How do you stay faithful to that regardless of how things turn out? But if you only operate in terms of what evidence is there that this is successful, then you're going to stop working with the people God hopes you'll walk with. You know, the belligerent and the gnarly and the attitudinal, and like the woman who freaked out in our office today, who just screamed and there was no consoling her. You'll stop working with her because she makes life difficult.
But
Instead, you're going to start working with the most likely to succeed, and that's kind of the opposite of what we hope to do here anyway, which is to go to the margins where people feel excluded, and how do we dismantle the barriers that exclude.
wow, I mean, this is crazy revolutionary, Father Greg. I mean, I get it, but you don't have any, I don't know what the word is, metrics or analytics of saying, we helped X amount this year, which is great, is 10% more
Yeah,
than last year, or you don't
yeah,
have.
definitely people do that here. I don't do it, but
Okay.
we have people who will, sign in sheets, and how many men and how many women and
Hmm.
how many
Yeah, how many
returning
have been helped?
citizens.
And how, yeah,
Yeah, so they kind of do
recidivism.
that. Yeah, because you're also, realistically, you have to submit that to funders, and then they like that. But as a person who's accompanying these folks here, you don't want that to be anywhere near your engine. Because if you believe in being faithful to the approach that we've embraced here, then you believe that in the end, it'll be okay. In the end, it will be effective. But if your engine is, let's just keep staying effective, it's a way of avoiding working with people who are challenging. And we really want to work with people who are challenging.
Golly, that's like so incredible and so counterintuitive. In the Protestant world, three of the main criteria, if you're a healthy church, is bucks, how big your budget is, butts, how many butts in the seat, and buildings, how big are the buildings. Now, to be fair, maybe there was a time in Catholic history, some pope says, "All right, we're going to sell a lot of indulgences. Indulgences. We're going to build a big cathedral because it makes me look good, right? Or it makes the bishop look good."
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not just a Protestant issue in terms of buildings, but you're challenging us in ministry not to fall into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good. I'm writing it down. Uh,
Books. Oh, can you quote me in your fifth book?
yeah,
As,
please.
as, as my good friend Dan Chun told me the other day, he talked about butts and
Yeah,
and bucks and
yeah,
buildings.
yeah, exactly. The three B's.
Yeah, the killer
Yeah, there
bees
you.
of
Hey,
ministry.
those are the killer bees
Oh,
of
you can write
ministry.
that down too, Father.
Yes. Oh no, that's good. The killer bees. Excellent.
Okay.
I will remember this, Dan.
Hi, this is Dan Chun. Sorry to butt in right now, but I just wanted to say, hey, if you want to keep following this show, could you become a subscriber and just hit the subscribe button? And it would be awesome that we could be part of a community to keep learning and hearing from these awesome speakers. Oh, great. We'll
Um,
see in book number 5.
yeah.
Now, you really wanted to highlight 10 things. We don't have to unpack all 10, but I just want to list them, and maybe you can highlight something that you think is incredibly critical for this country, for the church. And you mentioned that God is in the loving, God is inclusion, demonizing is always untruth, we belong to each other. Separation is an illusion. Tenderness is the highest form of spiritual maturity. Kindness is the only non delusional response to everything, which you were quoting a George Saunders, I think. Love your
Yeah.
neighbor as you love your child. We are all unshakably good, as you mentioned, and a community of cherished belonging is God's dream come true. And I know I just listed 10 and they're hard to remember all 10, but is there something you would want to highlight saying, boy, right now this country needs to really get this because we are divided and we could be going in the toilet?
Yeah, I think demonizing is kind of really front and center at the moment, and the kind of the key principle I think is if you believe that everybody's unshakably good, and that we belong to each other, then you can actually roll your sleeves up and make progress. But if you don't believe those two things, they are exactly the reason why we don't make progress. They are the reason why there is division. They're
Yeah.
the reason why we draw this huge distance to separate us. And frankly, the church has not been very helpful this way because of bucks, butts, and buildings. Because that's kind of, especially butts, because the whole thing of sin really was how do we get butts in the church? Well, let's scare them, and sin and hell and all that stuff, that it's all indictment, and it's not invitation. And what if we had really taken a different path somewhere, where we said, we're going to invite you to joy. We're not going to shake our fist at you and say, can't you get your act together? We're just going to invite you to joy. It's a little bit like, I read in the New York Times recently, somebody was writing an editorial and it said, we're teaching the wrong things. We should be teaching resilience. And I thought about it and I go, people here at Homeboy, you don't have to teach them resilience. But if you cherish them, they will be resilient. If you cherish them, they will be sturdy people. And a community that cherishes drives people sane, which is to say, it heals them. And so that's where you want to be, because imagine if the church has said, well, we don't care about bucks, butts, or buildings. We're going to invite you to the joy there is in knowing that loving is your home. And watch, you will never be homesick again because loving is your home. This is God's hope. So that once we do it, we end up being, we want to form community. We want to form a place where people can find healing and hope. And I think that would have worked better. But instead it was, especially the Catholic Church, even indulgences, you mentioned those earlier, but it's like, it was the fear of hell. And, I just think that was a mistake. I get it, because it really put butts in the church. But now people, they're not there, and they really aren't. And so,
I never thought about it, but whether the Protestant or the Catholic world, the whole problem with the cover-up of the sexual harassment is really because, for the sake of the mission, we got to keep more butts coming into the church. So let's not tell anybody about it.
yeah. And it was the notion of holiness that was skewed and wrong, because anybody who is healthy is holy, and anybody who's holy is healthy. And so we were fearful of all sorts of things, and so how do we walk each other home to wholeness and wellness and and health, so that people can help each other in a concrete way
Do-
to get there and to heal and to, so like especially the division in our country right now, everybody thinks, different tribes hold different views. But the truth is, we all are just held by anguish. And at any given time in our life, sometimes, the anguish is on a continuum of severity. Sometimes people are really quite anguished, and others are healthier enough to be able to help soothe the anguish of the people who are heavily weighed down by anguish. But none of us are well until all of us are well. And so how do we, really just dedicate how do we choose to soothe? And that's soothing. The soothing presence is really so essential here at Homeboy.